Welcome to the Brand and Market Podcast, the show for short-term rental owners who want to turn their listings into legacies. I'm your host, Allie Haney, owner and co-host of multiple properties and founder of Brand and Market, where we help Airbnb hosts and short-term rental investors build intentional brands, smart marketing systems, and guest experiences that actually move the needle. Each week, I share practical strategies, real-life stories, and behind-the-scenes insights to help you attract the right guests, increase bookings, and run your rental like a business, so you too can be the best in your brand and your market. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Brand and Market Podcast. I'm your host, Allie Haney. This month of March, we have been talking all about branding. We've been talking about personal branding and property branding, but I don't know that I have taken a step back and looked at the big picture to explain exactly what branding is. And I feel like a lot of people on our consult calls are confused when they think of branding. They think of logos. They think of the visual things. So primary, secondary logo, that color palette, the typography, but it's not just that. In fact, we have a lot of work we have to do before we even get to the visual portion of the process. And the work that we do is called brand strategy. So I have in front of me a recent client's brand strategy document that they receive as part of their brand strategy and design package. And I'm going to go through page by page and illustrate to you guys exactly what you would receive when I say you get brand strategy and design. So on the very first page, you will get a brand overview. Essentially, this is condensing absolutely everything about your brand into 2 paragraphs. It is essentially your elevator pitch, so to speak. So for this brand that we're going to be dissecting today, it is called La Palomita, which means the dove or the little dove in Spanish. And this La Palomita property is in Austin, Texas. And I just recently completed this project. So I'm going to go step by step through what their brand strategy is. Let me read to you the brand overview. La Palomita is a refined 1-bedroom retreat in Austin's Clarksville neighborhood, designed for guests who value calm, comfort, and thoughtful design over novelty or noise. Set within the historic Miriam building near the governor's mansion, the space blends modern minimalism with subtle Spanish influence, warm floors, layered textures, and clean lines that feel intentional rather than themed. Created for couples and longer stay travelers in their 30s and beyond, La Palomita offers a quiet counterpoint to traditional Austin stays. With fast Wi-Fi, a deeply comfortable bed, blackout curtains, and a walkable location just minutes from downtown, it serves as both a peaceful home base and a beautiful place to settle in, whether it's for work, an event, or a meaningful visit to the city. So immediately, if we know this is in Austin, and Austin's typical tagline is "Keep Austin Weird," we know that this property is going against the grain of what typical Austin has to offer. The next thing that I include in the brand overview is kind of a tagline. And so the tagline for La Palomita is "A quiet place to land." And I love the word land because you think about birds flying and they land down onto the ground or onto the side of the house, whatever it is. La Palomita is the name of the brand, the name of the property. And so we're incorporating that all the way into the tagline as well. Up next, the next page that you'll receive is your mission statement. And your mission statement is what you do, how you do it, and for whom you do it. It's taking that brand overview and simplifying it a little bit more to be a little bit more poignant and to the point. So the brand mission statement for La Palomita is to offer couples and longer stay guests a softer way to experience Austin through calm design, subtle Spanish influence, and intentional simplicity. So as I was working alongside with the interior designer of La Palomita, we were collaborating on exactly what the interior design should look like in order to keep it consistent with the brand strategy. The owner said that she really wanted something that was a bit more minimal, and the way that she was going to differentiate herself from the rest of the Austin market was that she was going to have that minimal design. But she wanted to go back to the Spanish roots of the city of Austin. And so she wanted to incorporate that just ever so slightly into the interior design as well. Of course, that's what gave the inspiration for the name La Palomita. Next up that you'll receive in your brand strategy document. We've already done brand overview and mission statement. Now we're on to brand values. So these are core values that can help guide specific decisions around the hospitality of your property, the guest experience of your property, the interior design of your property. If you want to acquire more properties, you can see that these core values can be guidelines and guiding lights when you're making decisions for the future of your business. Now, depending on the business and depending on the brand, I deliver anywhere between 4 and 6 brand values. For this brand, we delivered 4 brand values. So I title the brand value at the top, and then underneath, I give a little bit of an explanation of what I mean when I say that brand value. So for this one, the first brand value is intentional simplicity. You've heard me talk about that already. We're not going over the top. We're not doing the fluorescent lights. We want it to be simple in terms of design and guest experience. So every detail at La Palomita is chosen with purpose, creating a space that feels curated, calm, and free from distraction. And you can see if the space is free from distraction, it's really great. It's really good for those long-term work travelers that are there to focus and work, but also take in the city. By focusing on what truly matters, the home offers a sense of clarity and ease that allows guests to settle in fully. Next up, the next brand value is cultural subtlety. Spanish influence is expressed through texture, tone, and material rather than overt theme or ornamentation. These quiet references to the Spanish culture add warmth and depth, offering a more nuanced and timeless interpretation of the place. The third brand value is quiet luxury. Luxury at La Palomita is felt, not announced, through comfort, quality, and thoughtful restraint. The experience is elevated, yet unassuming, creating a refined atmosphere that feels natural rather than performative. And finally, restorative living is the final value. La Palomita is designed as a place of respite, offering guests a softer way to experience Austin amid the energy of the city. Whether resting, working, or reconnecting, the space encourages slowing down and returning to oneself. All right, next up, we're going to have the brand descriptors. You can see how throughout this entire document, though, that it is staying consistent. It's staying on brand so that you have this document to be able to go out and do your marketing for your short-term rental, for your boutique hotel, for your micro resort. We're going to keep going to show you all the little pieces that are delivered in this brand strategy. But next up is brand descriptors. And brand descriptors are specific adjectives or potentially short phrases that capture the essential characteristics, the attributes, and values of a brand. So brand descriptors provide a framework for consistent messaging across those various marketing channels, whether that's your direct booking site, your email marketing, your guest messaging. So it ensures communication is uniform and cohesive across all platforms. So for brand descriptors, I give anywhere between 6 and 8 brand descriptors. For La Palomita, the descriptors are discerning, editorial, cultured, rejuvenating, warm, and minimal. So when I'm going through and I am writing copy for a potential social media post, or I'm writing copy for the direct booking site, I'm going to keep these brand descriptors right in front of me. And as I'm writing that copy, I'm going to use those to check myself. I'm going to say, okay, is this piece of copy, is it discerning? Is it cultured? Is it rejuvenating? Does it have a warm tone to it? Like not cold or impersonal, but warm and welcoming. So I'm going to use these to basically check myself as I'm writing the copy for anything that I put out in terms of marketing materials across any marketing channel. The next one I like to do, I know you guys can't see it, but it's like a pretty designed page with another tagline, and it says a soft landing. So a quiet place to land or a soft landing. You can see how those are all calm, they're rejuvenating, they're warm, and they're on brand because we still have that landing word that we are continuously using over and over again that signifies La Palomita, the dove, the little dove. Next up, you'll receive a full guest profile. So sometimes this is an ideal client profile if it's a service-based business that I'm working for, or it could be a guest profile if I'm working with a short-term rental owner. In fact, I've worked with quite a few property management companies recently, and we will do an ideal owner portfolio or profile rather. We want to determine exactly who we want to work with in terms of owners, as well as who we want to work with in terms of guests. So you can see how that's kind of twofold when it comes to the property management companies. But for this specific example, because it's a short-term rental and the owner plans on operating that short-term rental herself, we are going to just do a guest profile. Now, this to me is the really exciting part where it gets a little bit more specific and granular to your property, your business, and your brand. So, whenever I do a guest profile, I actually create like a name for the couple or a name for the family. I tell like how old they are, what their professions are, what their motivations and desires are, what their personality characteristics are. Like I go really deep and actually make them like a legitimate person or couple or family so that I can use again, have that like guest profile right next to me as I'm writing the copy to make sure I'm in line and speaking directly to that person. So for La Palomita, the couple that is going to be staying is Elena and David. And I have described them as the understated power couple. And I'll tell you why in a second. So they are about 45 years in age. And some of this, let me take a step back. How did I come up with this? A couple of different things. This was through a strategy call that I had with the owner of the property to get her vision of who she wanted to be marketing to, branding towards, and staying there. And then it also came down to the specs of this property, right? This is a 1-bed, 1-bath property with that's like relatively small. So it's going to be specifically for couples because a family of, let's say, 5 would not comfortably fit in that 1-bed, 1-bath apartment. So sometimes you're capped or put in a box by the specs of the actual property itself. But also we have people that we want to work with and have people that we don't want to work with or host for that matter. So I use the actual property itself as well as the feedback that I got from the owner to distill it down to this particular guest profile. So Elena and David, they're around 45 years old. Elena is a healthcare professional, so she works like 3 12-hour shifts. So she's got big gaps of time in the week that she can potentially travel. With David, who works as a business consultant, he has flexibility to work remotely, potentially runs his own business. Regardless, he either works remotely or makes his own schedule. They are married and or long-term partners without kids. They don't have any kids. Their location, where do they actually live in their everyday life? They live in Denver, Colorado. That's their home base. But David, like I said, often works remotely, and Elena travels with him when she's able to because of those big gaps in her nursing schedule. Their personalities are thoughtful. They're very design aware. They like aesthetics and pretty things. They're calm. They're culturally curious. Elena has a Spanish background. Her family came over from Spain to here. Now they are experiencing life as Americans. They value privacy and intention. They prefer meaningful experiences over loud ones and appreciate the quality without the spectacle. So they're not the ones that are going to be going to the rooftop bars in downtown Austin, but they are the ones that might take a stroll with their morning coffee from Clarksville, which is where this property is, to downtown Austin so that they can walk around before it gets really busy. Their core desires are to feel grounded in a new city without being overstimulated. They just want simplicity. They want to experience Austin in a way that feels cultured and authentic rather than trendy or chaotic. They want to have a beautiful, restful place that supports both connection and focus so that they can be together. It can be a little bit of a vacation whenever David is not working, but David is also able to focus, but be close enough for Elena to go and explore the local parks. From there, I have like kind of their bullet points of their age, occupation, family, location, personality, and core desires. From there, I dive a little bit deeper into who they are. Elena and David come to Austin with the intention of settling in, not skimming the surface. With at least one of them working remotely, their days are structured around focus and flexibility, morning work sessions, midday walks, and easy transitions into the city's neighborhoods. They prefer to experience the place as locals do, choosing walkable streets, familiar cafes, and a sense of rhythm over spectacle or novelty. In their travels, they consistently seek out spaces that feel calm, design forward, and quietly comfortable, places that support productivity without sacrificing warmth. Remember that word from earlier, warmth. They gravitate toward neighborhoods that allow them to move easily between work and exploration, returning each evening to an environment that feels grounded and restorative. When they visit Austin, La Palomita naturally fits the way that they already travel, offering a soft landing that aligns with their desire to feel at home rather than on display. Next up, we're going to determine what makes your business, your brand, your property different than all the other properties in your market. And what this is called is your unique value proposition, or your UVP. What do you do differently than the next person who sells the same service as you, who has a similar property to you, etc.? La Palomita reimagines the Austin stay by replacing trend-driven novelty design with modern minimalism and understated local flair, offering a quieter, more livable experience for discerning travelers. So you see how these words like discerning, warmth, they come up over and over and over again. And the reason that may sound redundant is because I'm squashing them all together in a 20-minute podcast episode. But what that really does, when you put it into practice, is it becomes familiar, it becomes memorable, and therefore you become more trustworthy from potential guests. So we want it to be consistent. That's the whole point of branding, so that every time you sit down to write a caption, you're not reinventing the wheel. You're staying true to the brand strategy that we've set forth, so that we can make sure all the Elena and Davids of the world walk through our front doors. And the last thing that I like to include in my brand strategy documents is a brand messaging or brand vocabulary guide. Uniform messaging across all of your platforms. I've already listed them once, but direct booking, social media, website, email marketing, all the things, right? Uniform messaging across all those platforms solidifies your brand identity, leading to a consistent brand experience, like we just talked about, for the guests that you're trying to get to walk through your front door. Repetitive use of these specific vocabulary words creates brand awareness and associates your brand with those keywords. So the way that I split up this brand messaging guide is pretty simple, but it is pretty poignant as well. So anytime, again, sitting down to write copy for any marketing collateral, I'm going to have this next to me. I break it down into what are the repeated words that we're going to use? What are the repeated phrases that we're going to use? What are the repeated stories that we're going to use? And what are the repeated themes that we're going to use? So let me break this down to give you a little bit more of a clearer idea of what I mean. Words that we're going to use over and over and over again are, first and foremost, our brand's name. So La Palomita is going to be something that I continue to use over and over and over again. Enfield, which is the street that this property is on, we are going to use Enfield because their full name of the full brand is La Palomita on Enfield for SEO purposes. You see what I did there? Another repeated word, a few more, are culture, discerning, quiet, thoughtful, restorative, and landing. And you've heard me repeat a lot of those words already throughout this brand strategy document, so you can see how it's very easy to keep things consistent when you have a brand strategy or guide to follow. The repeated phrases that we're going to use for La Palomita are a soft landing, cultural subtlety, that was one of our values, a calmer way to experience Austin, like a local, where modern design meets warmth, Spanish-inspired, residential retreat in Clarksville. So you can see, using those over and over and over again, they're not only going to contribute to the familiarity and therefore the trust that your potential guest has with you, they're also going to help with your SEO. And fun fact, now Instagram and most social media platforms are being indexed on Google. So if you're using keywords in your social media captions, they'll also be Googleable and therefore ChatGPT searchable. Next up is different stories. This one was a little bit more challenging for this particular brand because they don't have, it's a new property. It hasn't been set live yet. So they don't have guest stories that they can refer back to, but that's what I would put here. So anytime you get a really great review, I actually did an entire episode on how you can use 5-star reviews as marketing material. Go back to that episode, listen to it, and basically take those stories that you can glean from the reviews that you have from guests and make them into social media content. Make them, interweave them into the copy for your website. But let me give you a couple of examples of what I thought would be good for La Palomita. Stories about different occupations that allow people to work remotely that previous travelers had had. So I kind of already touched on some with our ideal guest avatar. Potentially they could be working in healthcare and be able to work 3 days and be off 4 days. Potentially they could be running their own business and be able to have a flexible schedule they set themselves. It could be any type of hybrid or remote job that could work from anywhere. but using those like guest reviews of people that have those occupations, putting that to life for people to be able to see on your social media or on your website, like, oh yeah, I also am in healthcare and have 4-day weekends like every other week. So maybe I could do this and travel with my husband or my wife, my spouse. The next type of story that I encouraged this owner to use is the edited Austin experience. So basically taking the keep Austin weird vibes and saying, okay, we're not doing this over here with cowboy boots and line dancing and neon signs. Instead, we are doing the subtle Spanish culture. We are having a calming experience. We're still going to experience Austin, but it's going to be the edited experience. It's not going to be the experience that everyone else blurts out across all the social media platforms. Stories and themes in this particular owner's case are going to overlap quite a bit because we don't have those individualized guest stories. So just keep that in mind as I go through these last couple of stories that the owner could tell on social media and website. Next up is a walkable Austin stay. They are very close to downtown without being directly downtown. So what that means in terms of content is that they could talk about all of the walkable restaurants, all of the walkable parks, all of the walkable coffee shops, so that they can showcase all of the different types of attractions and food and beverage that their ideal guest, Elena and David, might really enjoy. Last but not least, the stories that they can tell that are brand specific are the history of the building that the apartment is located in. So I mentioned earlier that they were part of the governor's mansion or shared a street with the governor's mansion, and these apartments were an extension to that building. So diving into the history of this building kind of gives a subtle nod to that edited Austin experience. So we can incorporate pieces of the building's history into our brand story as well. Now, like I said, the stories and the themes in this case were very closely related and overlapped quite a bit. But some of the themes are keeping Austin calm, not weird, design as a support, not a spectacle. So practical ways that remote workers could use the interior design, i.e. a nice, awesome desk, the fast Wi-Fi, all of that, to be able to support their ideal stay. Experiencing Austin like a local, not a tourist. Enhancing the work remotely experience. We already talked through that one. And then slowing down without disconnecting from others. Disconnecting totally. Like we're not going to La Palomita to get totally off the grid. We are just slowing down, taking our regular life, transporting it to another place so that we can refocus, have some clarity, and get some just creative inspiration from the city and from the property itself. So that rounds out our brand strategy document. From here, after we get your brand strategy squared away, that's when the design portion of the brand strategy and design package actually starts. So you have to have all of these conversations with me and finalize brand strategy, because this is before we start design, because this is going to act as the foundation for the design. So now I know who we're designing for. I know who we're trying to attract. I know what makes us different. And from there, I can create an on-brand color palette as well as a mood board to get the overall vibe of the brand before we move on to the actual design of the logo and picking out fonts. So that's the process of brand strategy and design. I like to say if you have a logo that's really beautiful, but there's no strategy behind it, it's basically like building a house without foundation. So from the outside, it looks really pretty, but it's probably not going to stand the test of time. Versus if we implement that brand strategy, we build the foundation of your house, which is the foundation of your brand. Then once we build something really beautiful on top of that, it's going to stand the test of time and it's going to market to the people that we want it to market to. If any of this resonates with you and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to know who's walking through my front doors, who my guest avatar is, and what differentiates me within my market, then I would love to have a consult call with you. I live and breathe this stuff every day. And I know that sometimes it feels overwhelming and you're like, it's just a house. How is it going to have brand strategy? I promise you it will. And I promise you that once you get the brand strategy portion of it down, you're going to feel so much more confident when you go to market that property. And you're going to feel so much better about the guests that are walking through that door, because you know that you're actually going to be able to serve them and give them an awesome guest experience. If this is something that you're interested in, I offer free consult calls, and I wish I had like testimonials that said how not pushy I am on these calls. It's really just truly for me to understand where your property is, who you are, how I can help, if I can help. And if not, usually I have a referral of someone that can. So until next week, signing off here. I will talk to you guys soon. Cheers to being the best in your brand and your market. You just completed another episode of the Brand and Market Podcast. If you found this helpful, please rate, review, and subscribe to help others find this show and so that you never miss an episode. Don't forget to take a look at the show notes for all the resources mentioned today. See you next Wednesday, and as always, I'm here cheering you on as you build your dream brand and business.